It is 5 o'clock. Yes, everybody's ready to get started. It's 5 o'clock, and at this time I'll call the work session for the Perry City Council for Monday, March the 16th, 2026 to order. We do have a quorum this evening. Item 3 on our agenda are citizens with input. Are there any citizens here this afternoon that would like to address Mayor and Council at this time? Thank you. Item 4, items for review and discussion. Item 4A is the Community Development Department. 4A1 is a flood hazmat mitigation grant application. Mr. Gore?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item came up recently. As you may know, there's a zoning application that's on the docket as well for rezoning for property along Frank Satterfield. I just want to be clear that this hazard mitigation grant program application doesn't have anything to do with that rezoning application. This came up because of that application that came in and the information that we were provided by that builder. We realized that there's some issues over there with that area that was originally studied back in 1977 as part of the original FEMA maps. There's something greatly off with those maps. We understand that the topography that's shown on the maps, the floodway, the tributary, is all incorrect in there. We reached out to the state to ask them some questions regarding the floodplain over there and how we could theoretically allow the developer to build those homes over there. They were in agreement that they could follow the current flood mapping and elevate those homes to 3 feet above the base flood elevation, which is 290. So those homes will be elevated to 293. I'm giving you all this information just as a preface because the state is in the process of remapping all the flood maps for the entire state. They're currently working on Houston County. It's a 5-year process. So they will eventually get to that information that they've studied. They have some base level engineering, which shows the floodplain extending across that whole area of Frank Satterfield. The new baseline engineering that they've provided shows some of the existing homes along Frank Satterfield being affected. But in our discussions with the state, we know that that information that they've provided in their base level engineering isn't accurate either, because they're utilizing some of the old data from 1977. So in discussions with the state, in discussions with their engineers, they said that we could apply for this hazard mitigation grant. We can restudy that entire area from Tucker Road all the way down to Frank Satterfield to get a better idea of how that tributary is actually functioning down there, how the culvert that crosses under Frank Satterfield Road, how that functions. There was a proposed development just north of Frank Satterfield, was Breland Chase, back in, I think it was started in 1999, prior to any floodplain regulations being in place. They have, if you go out there, there's a large swale that has been dug out as part of that development because it was under construction, but it stopped, I guess, during the collapse of the housing market back in 2005. They've made some significant changes out there that have redirected the flow of the water, and none of that is taken into consideration under the original flood study and even the new information that the state has. So we feel it best to go out there, do a full analysis of this area to determine what is actually the topography and what does the floodplain actually do out there. Because again, there could be a significant amount of existing homes that are affected with the new floodplain. if you can pull up the there you go, thank you. So this is the current FEMA flood map, and you can see going north up to Tucker Road, you can see that there's a small area of floodway. The interesting thing is that there is no open tributary. This is all a pipe system, so there's no stream that comes through there. And if you can look at the map on there, if you can see where it says 297 feet just north of the word floodway there, to the left of that is where that development has carved out this large area of this drainage channel, and that works its way down all the way to Frank Satterfield Road, where then it drains along the ditch, and then it goes under the culvert that goes under the road. However, the culvert and the drainage channel don't line up. So all that water comes down that drainage channel, hits the side of Frank Satterfield Road, and that's what causes it to back up. So one of the things we're going to look at is how that, as part of this study, is reworking that culvert, moving that culvert to be in line with that drainage channel that's been put in. And then they'll also rework the topography out there in the study to see what the existing topography is, to see how those other homes are going to be affected. The red square on that map, I put that there. That's an approximate location of the parcel on Frank Satterfield that's proposed for development there. Just so we could have an idea of where we're working. Here, can you go to that other site plan? So this was an original proposal from the developer for that, and they don't pay any attention to the homes that are on there. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this was, and this is why this all came about. If you look just to the north of the property line, you can see a dashed line that's drawn in there by hand. That's the approximate 290 base flood elevation that's shown on the maps. That's the ground elevation out there, 290. And that 290 elevation runs all the way across to Frank Satterfield Road, and that's kind of why we came back and said, hey, something is not right out here. We know that this information is flawed, and that's why we said that we have to go back here and restudy this, because the old data is no good from 1977. The topography out there, that's a survey, so that is correct. So we know that that 290 line goes all the way across. The base level engineering that the state did does show the new base flood elevation continuing over across to Frank Satterfield Road. But that's based on information they have now that is incorrect. So going out there and restudying this whole thing will be greatly beneficial to the city and to the homes that are along Frank Satterfield that may be affected if those flood maps are adopted under information that is not accurate. So we got a estimate from Dewberry Engineering. They're the engineers who are doing the study for the state. And the total cost of that was $33,000. It's a 25% match on the city. We estimated about $10,000. However, there is a 15% match that the state can put in. And Dewberry was considering the 15% state match. However, that $10,000 is without the state match. So if we don't get the state, then that's what the city would be responsible for. But we could apply for the state to get matching funds up to 15% from them, which in that case we would only be responsible for 10%.
Questions, council?
Yes, sir, I have one. Mr. Gore or Ms. Johnson, could you go back to the last, right there? I'm trying to get my bearings here. I see in the bottom right corner it says north is up. So can I assume this part of the road that comes and curves to the left, that's heading over toward the water treatment plant? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So what would the timeline be? Like if we approve this, what would the timeline for our study be?
I do have
And
that
you can just
here.
ballpark it. It didn't have to be exact. I'm just thinking, with something on the docket, asking to build and,
So this wouldn't be part of a build. This is just purely a study. So this is going to provide information. Any hazard mitigation work that's going to be done subsequent to this, we would apply for another grant under a different program to actually do the work. This study would, they're estimating 90 days.
oh, so that's pretty quick.
Pretty
That's a
quick.
pretty quick
Oh yeah,
turnaround.
very quick.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Question. This paper that was included in our agenda entitled HMA Floodplain Management Planning Application, is that from Dewberry?
That is from Dewberry. That was their initial scope for the project.
Well, in that, I had a couple questions regarding that. It said this area has a history of undersized and failing infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
What would be some examples of that?
It's the culvert that crosses underneath of Frank Satterfield Road there. We know that culvert is well undersized for this drainage area. It's also failing. The banks of the side of Frank Satterfield on each side of the head walls of that culvert is collapsing. It's all eroded. The head walls are damaged. So that's the infrastructure that they're referring to in this study, or in the application.
I was just wondering, is that the only place that in this area that's been flooding then? And
as far as I know, that according to Mr. McMurrian, Frank Satterfield Road in this area has been underwater. But what we don't know, and I don't know in my short time here, is if any of the homes along Frank Satterfield have been affected. So you're saying they have been? I'm not.
They have been. I've been contacted by multiple people over the last 2 years about flooding specifically in those homes on Frank Satterfield.
Okay, so that's good information to know.
so is, and Councilwoman Faust, does that mean the flooding is over the street, or is it threatening their homes as well?
From what they contacted me about, so I understand that. I don't have personal experience with that, but it's like under their crawl spaces, like within their property, not just outside of their property.
Okay.
So right now, under the current FEMA map you show, a lot of those homes along Frank Satterfield, they're not shown to be within the base flood elevation, or what we call the 100-year flood elevation. So they're not subject to any type of flood insurance requirements. If the maps change, and if the maps change based on bad information or bad data, those homes, if they have a federally backed mortgage, they will be required to obtain flood insurance. So there's a lot of what ifs that are going to affect these residents along Frank Satterfield if we don't have the correct information to update those maps appropriately.
This also mentions, has the statement, model validation will be conducted based on the 2024 Hurricane Helene event. We didn't get hit very hard with Helene.
They didn't, but what they do is when they, and I'm not an engineer, but when they take these models, they'll take the rainfall totals for those, and they can work that into that model to determine what would be the hydrology coming through there based on those rainfall totals. It's all computer modeling, and then the topography. They use LiDAR to get the topography of the ground, and they put all that information into this computer program that spits out what the boundaries of the base flood elevation would be. And that's the latest, most significant storm that we had here, so that's why they're going to use that latest data.
Yeah. The other, I guess, last question here is, under data collection, Dewberry will compile and review available existing studies. I guess, what are the existing studies, and are they even worth looking at after some of your statements?
No, there aren't any existing studies. We have some information from that prior development that was proposed. We have some plans from there. We have the storm infrastructure plans that we've provided them so they can see how all the storm pipes are running throughout that area. That's the information that they'll be provided, but there's no existing studies other than what is currently on the FEMA maps.
You said the culvert is basically falling apart. Is that correct?
For the most part, yeah. There's two 36-inch pipes that run under Frank Satterfield Road. If you look, can you go back to the flood map? And it's hard for me to kind of show you because you're looking at the screen. But if you see where that hashed red line is, that blue and red line, that's the floodway. And you see there's a blue line that runs right through the middle of that?
Yes.
That's the stream channel. But there is no open stream channel there. That stream channel is shown on there, but the culvert is further east of that. So to the right of that stream channel that's depicted on that map. So even the field conditions, the culvert wouldn't line up with that stream channel. Now, because of that development, that stream channel, we're going to call it the stream channel even though it's not, because they diverted that storm channel when they redeveloped that area or were proposing that development, that shifted further west almost to the edge of that red rectangle to the left. So that's where the water is all coming down, then hitting Frank Satterfield Road, running down east Frank Satterfield Road along the ditch line through the culvert. So the flow of the water doesn't even line up with that culvert that's going under the road.
I know in the past, if memory serves, we replaced the culvert under Park Avenue near Perry High School a few years ago. Is that something we need to prioritize here, replacing that culvert? Will that help the situation?
So once we determine the hydrology of this area and we do this study, that will help us determine what's the next course of action to take. So does the culvert need to be increased in size? Does it need to be relocated? They can work those things into the model, determine what's the best method to reduce the water elevation in that area. So once we have this information, we'll find out what we can do with that culvert, and that'll be the additional funding later on. We can apply for different grants for that as well.
I just want to say I'm really glad to hear that they are looking at these stormwater maps. We've had multiple constituents over the last several years that have come up and said, but the flood maps aren't accurate, but they're so old, but things have changed, and et cetera. So you said that would be about a 5-year plan for Houston County?
Overall, yeah, for the whole state, really. They're working in areas.
Right.
So they advised me that it would be 5 years for completion of their study and then FEMA reviewing it. But if we study this now, we can submit to FEMA for a letter of map revision, and that would change this section immediately.
Okay. But we still have to look forward to the remainder of our
Absolutely.
area through the work that they're doing?
Yes.
And do we have any confidence that the work they're doing is correct?
Well, I mean, they're all engineers. This company, I can't speak for the entire mapping process. We're involved with them now. We're talking to them so we can look at their changes and help provide them with information that we know locally here.
Right.
I was a bit concerned about this area here, knowing
Sure.
that what they had didn't reflect these specific site conditions that are out there.
Okay.
So they're not doing site visits. They're not boots on the ground surveying the areas. It's all historic data mapping, and they're running new LiDAR. The LiDAR picked up that channel that's in there, but it's still picking up some of that area where the floodway is. So it's very strange out there, and they don't have the information from that proposed development that was going to go in there. And that's information that's going to be important to them to increase the accuracy of their study.
So do we know if this proposed development is going to be built in the middle of a floodplain?
So we don't really know what's going on out there yet. It was recently purchased. It's our understanding. So back in 2000 when the development was originally approved, again, that's before any floodplain regulations were even in place here, before the current flood maps were even in effect, which I think are 2007. So that development and the plans that we have they don't even reference any floodplain out there. So if somebody's going to come back with the development, they're going to have to comply with the new regulations. We would make them go through a new study for the floodplain, and it's all going to be dependent upon what is the outcome of this new mapping study. So there's a lot riding on it. There's stormwater installed out there. There's sanitary sewer that development was being built and then just stopped, probably somewhere around that 05 timeframe when the economy collapsed.
Probably similar to Evening Shade out there, the same situation out there.
Yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, then this development won't be permitted to go forward until these studies are done?
The Breland Chase development or the one on Frank Satterfield Road?
Either?
No. So the one on Frank Satterfield Road, that can go forward. That could go forward today because we would go by the current mapping. We know that the base flood elevation right there at 290 is not going to increase. So as long as they're building above the base flood elevation by 3 feet to 293, then they're compliant with our regulations. So he could, because there's an existing parcel there today that's in the floodplain, he can build there. What we don't allow is for somebody to construct a home on a newly created parcel in the floodplain. But this is already existing, so he could build there today. And in my conversations with the state, because we went through this, we had several engineers on the phone, that the 293 elevation that he would have to elevate to is adequate to protect those homes from flooding. They don't know exactly what the base flood elevation is going to be out there, given their baseline engineering. They don't think it's going to be higher than 293. They think it's actually going to be a little less than 290.
I'm just hesitant to allow something to be built when we don't know the exact
But
level.
that's really not what we're discussing this evening. What we're discussing this evening is that we're going to do the flood study and
Oh, and I'm totally in support of
ask
that.
for the grant. But tonight, the development's is not the topic of discussion or approval from the council.
No, that's fair. I understand. I just don't want another Sadie Heights.
Oh, I do.
I do.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody on this dais that wants another Sadie Heights.
Right. While it's true that's not a topic of discussion, I think that it would be foolish to not think they're not interrelated. Like, these are connected, issues. So I think that's where our questions are coming from.
I think it's
so
very
thank you for.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we study everywhere we can to develop any kind of information that we can develop to make sure that we do not have another Sadie Heights in the city of Perry. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Gore, you said that the state is in the process of redoing these flood insurance rate maps.
Yes, sir.
I noticed at the bottom bottom of that screen, base map imagery sources, U.S. Geological Society, or survey, excuse me, national map. So will FEMA or USGS help the state? Are they involved with this in any way?
So FEMA changed their process several years ago. Before, it used to be done by FEMA. FEMA hired engineers to come in and study everything. They now have the state do it at their level with the engineers. They then submit it to FEMA for review. So FEMA is involved. It doesn't get approved until FEMA looks at it. And
Okay.
so the official maps will be issued by FEMA when it's all done.
And forgive me if I missed it, but did you say, do we have a timeline when these maps would be finished or available, the updated maps?
It's 5 years.
Okay. I did hear that. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Hearing none, do we have concurrence to move forward with this study?
Yes.
And that will take a vote, I would assume, Ms. Newby, tomorrow night?
Yes, sir, because you are agreeing to the match.
Okay, so we'll add this tomorrow as a supplemental item. So, thank you for all the
Thank you.
information.
Thank you.
And if I may, and is that something that gets paid out of, and we got a grant, and we may have a state grant So where does the rest of that money come from? Is that out of your budget,
We'd have
your retirement, something like that?
take it out of city council training funds. No, I would envision this being paid for with SPLOST.
Oh,
It's a $10,000 match, so.
yeah. We're whipping that splotch to death.
Well, this is exactly the sort of thing that SPLOST is there for. It's a perfect SPLOST project. Particularly if we continue on and have some sort of thing where we have to actually go in there and replace the culverts or something like that.
Okay, very good. Item 4B is the police department. 4B1 is command post replacement request. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think most of you know we have a motorhome that was donated to the city many years ago that they tried to make into a command post. Today, that command post slash motorhome, although not very effective for what it was hoped to use for, has some significant structural issues, roof issues, electrical issues, and we would like to move forward with surplus in it, but occasionally we make arrests that have drug seizure money involved in it. So we've looked at an idea of getting a trailer command post, first of all, that's designed to be a command post. As we had an incident Thursday night, would have been a good time, or the incident at the swatting call at Perry High School. Sometimes you just need to be able to get people together and look at materials and data. We would like to take the motorhome and sell it at auction, and then any money raised from that kind of earmark it back into the replacement command post and using the investigative fund for condemned funds to pay the remaining balance. We believe a trailer like that, based off some estimates we already have looked at, it's going to be between $25,000 and $30,000. We believe the motorhome will probably bring $7,500 to maybe $8,000.
Okay. Questions, council?
Go get more of those drugs off the street and then pay for it, right?
We're doing our best every day.
I love it.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have your concurrence to move forward with the outlined by the chief?
Yes.
Okay, we'll put that on the supplemental tomorrow
you.
to vote for it as well. Okay, thank you. Item 5 are council member items. Dr. Faust? Our birthday boy. Nothing tonight, Mr. Jones? Dr. Albritton? Mr. Moody?
No, sir.
Mr. Peterson?
None for me.
Reverend King?
No, sir.
Okay. Robert, do you have anything for us?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Mitchell, you have anything additional for us? No, sir. Ms. Newby, do you have anything? No, sir. Okay. Item 6 are department heads. Ms. Wharton? Nothing, sir. Okay. Mitchell, anything? No? From a finance? I was told somebody you're wearing both hats now. Mr. Duffy?
No, sir, I just want to thank council for their time listening to our discussion on the floodplain issues in the Frank Satterfield region. Staff take this matter extremely seriously, so even though this particular parcel in question, which really prompted this discussion, is up for rezoning, that is kind of irrelevant from the floodplain issue, but we appreciate y'all's time and taking this seriously as well, and it's all part of our considerations. But as far as the rezoning goes, it will be coming before you shortly. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Coates? Nothing tonight. Okay. Chief? Nothing tonight, sir. Chief, anything else? Nothing further. Mr. Schubert? Ms. Birdshaw? Anything? Ms. Clark? Is there anything from the city clerk's office? No, sir. Okay, thank you. I think that's everyone. Mayor items, I just remind you that our meetings are open to the public, and our next meeting will be tomorrow night here with our pre-council at 5 o'clock and our regular council meeting at 6 o'clock. We do have a requirement for an executive session for pending litigation, so at this time I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We are in executive session at this time.